My name is Sarah Miller, and I never imagined I'd be the one to bring my family to their knees. For 34 years, I believed in the sanctity of family, the promise that blood meant loyalty, that love meant standing together through anything. I was wronged up by day. I'm an elementary school teacher at Scarecrow Elementary in Seattle. My students know me as Miss Miller, the patient one with the warm smile and the classroom full of color and laughter. My fiance, Mark, a marketing manager at Cascade Solutions, sees me as his study partner, the woman who dreams of one day opening a cozy cafe with him in Capitol Hill. My parents used to see me as their dependable daughter, the one who never questioned, never disobeyed, never made waves. No one saw what was coming. June 12th, 2023 changed everything. Beneath the ornate chandeliers of the Hamilton Plaza in Chicago, surrounded by 83 of our closest friends and relatives, my father's hand struck my cheek so hard that the sound echoed through the suddenly silent room. All because I said one word, no. No to giving my brother. Even my $50,000 wedding fund. No to being the family's personal ATM. No to vanishing quietly while the golden child shined. What my father didn't realize, standing over me with his palm still burning from the impact, was that I'd already set things in motion. That night would be the last time Robert Sawyer ever held power over me. The path to that moment began years earlier. My father, a former investment banker with a ruthless streak, had always favored my younger brother, Ethan, 5 years my junior at 29. He was raised to believe the world would bend to his extraordinary potential. In reality, that potential had become a string of failed business ventures and an Instagram feed full of fake luxury, funded by my parents' generosity and eventually by mine. My mother, Linda, played her role as the enabler with heartbreaking precision. She'd call me crying about Ethan's latest crisis, then praise me for being responsible before quietly transferring my money into his account. I was conditioned to think this was normal, that family meant sacrifice, and love meant giving until there was nothing left to give. The demands grew. At first, it was small loans that never came back. Then it became covering his rent when he was between opportunities. Eventually, I found myself financing his grand business ideas, PowerPoint dreams that never reached reality. Each time, my father would say, "You know how special his vision is, Sarah. He just needs time." Meanwhile, I'd been quietly building something of my own. Beyond my teaching salary, I started Cozy Crafts LLC, selling watercolor artwork online. What began as therapy became a thriving small business. I kept it private partly out of humility, mostly out of fear that my success would be siphoned away like everything else. I saved diligently for years, scraping together $50,000 for my dream wedding to Mark. That money represented every late night, every craft fair, every ounce of independence I'd fought for. We'd planned a simple spring ceremony at Willowbrook Gardens, followed by a honeymoon in Greece. Not extravagant, just hours. 2 weeks before our engagement party, Ethan announced his latest venture, a wellness brand centered around spiritual entrepreneurship, whatever that meant. He needed capital immediately. Without consulting me, my father said, "Sarah will help you out. She's got that wedding fund just sitting there." For the first time, I refused. "No, Dad. That money is for my future with Mark." The argument that followed was vicious. My father called me selfish. My mother wept. Ethan looked at me as though I'd betrayed him personally. My father's voice dropped low, dangerously calm as he said, "After everything we've done for you." I almost broke. Almost. But Mark's words echoed in my mind. Your family treats you like a resource, not a person. So I stood my ground at the tension carried into Chicago. I'd foolishly believed a public engagement celebration would keep my father's temper in check. I was wrong. He cornered me during the reception, phone in hand, his banking app open. Transfer it now. Your brother needs this more than you need flowers. Dad, please, I said softly. This is my future, my one special day. You're a teacher, he snapped. Your life is set. Ethan has real potential. Before I could reply, his hand came down. The slap sent me stumbling backward into a table of champagne glasses, the crash ringing through the hall like a gunshot. In the silence that followed, something inside me broke and reformed as I looked up at his face. I didn't see remorse. I saw anger that I dared to defy him. And in that moment, I knew I would never belong to his control again. My cousin Emma, a family law attorney, was the first to reach me. She lifted me gently and whispered, "This ends now. Come see me tomorrow." Mark stood between me and my father, his voice trembling with rage. "We're leaving. Don't call. Don't text. Don't come near her again." My mother tried to smooth it over. "Robert didn't mean it. He's just stressed about Ethan's business." But the damage was done. As we walked out of the Hamilton Plaza, whispers following us like shadows, I already knew exactly what I had to do. The next morning, instead of hiding in humiliation, I began documenting every financial transaction between me and my family over the past 5 years, every transfer, every promise, every lie. The total made my stomach turn. $87,450, nearly $90,000 gone. Emma reviewed the records with growing outrage. "Sarah, this isn't family helping family. This is financial abuse. Can I get any of it back?" I asked. "Legally, maybe some. Morally, all of it. But the better question is, what do you want?" And for the first time, I knew. I wanted justice and to never feel powerless again. Emma helped me draft a formal restitution demand, though we both knew my father would ignore it. He'd lived his entire life without consequences. A letter wouldn't change that. "You need leverage," Emma said. "Something that forces them to listen." That's when I revealed my second secret. Beyond cozy crafts, I'd been investing quietly since my first year of teaching. My portfolio, managed through Horizon Financial, had grown to over $200,000. With small ownership stakes in 2 local cafes, the same kind of place Mark and I dreamed of owning someday. "They see me as a teacher with a cute hobby," I told her. "They have no idea what I'm actually worth." Please. Together, we crafted a plan not just to reclaim what was stolen from me, but to permanently redefine the power dynamic in the Sawyer family. Phase 1 was deceptively simple. Silence. I stopped answering their calls. Blocked Ethan's number. After cutting off all contact, I deleted my family from social media. Predictably, the flood of messages began. First confusion, then anger, then pleading. "Sarah, please call us. Your father is sorry. You're being childish." Family disagreements happen. "Ethan really needs this money. His opportunity will expire soon." I saved every message, adding them to my growing file of evidence. Phase 2 began with professional reinforcement. Emma connected me with Morrison and Associates, a law firm specializing in family financial disputes. They quietly began investigating my family's financial history and uncovered something I hadn't expected. My father had done this before. Extended family members, former business partners, even his own siblings, each had stories of loans that were never repaid, investments that vanished without explanation, and guilt trips whenever they dared to question him. Your father has a system, my attorney told me. He identifies people with resources, uses emotional leverage to access them, and discards them when they're no longer useful. The revelation hit like a physical blow. This wasn't just unhealthy family dynamics, this was deliberate exploitation. And my brother had learned from the best. Phase 3 was the hardest. Patience. We needed the perfect moment to confront them publicly, somewhere they couldn't twist the truth afterward. The opportunity came sooner than expected. Ethan's 30th birthday was approaching, and my parents were planning an extravagant celebration at the Belmont Plaza. Invitations went out across Seattle's social circles, describing Ethan as a visionary entrepreneur and thought leader. My invitation came with a handwritten note from my mother. Please come. Sarah, let's put this ugliness behind us. Perfect. Down in the weeks before the event, I prepared meticulously. I bought a designer dress that cost more than my monthly mortgage, something my father once called wasteful for someone like you. I had my hair and makeup professionally done. I wanted them to see that I was no longer the docile daughter they could control. More importantly, I assembled my evidence bank statements, emails, text messages, and testimonies from others he had exploited compiled into a devastating, undeniable presentation. On September 15th, I arrived at Belmont Plaza 30 minutes after the party began. The rooftop glittered with expensive decorations celebrating Ethan's visionary future. A massive banner read 30 years of excellence. The moment I entered, conversations froze. My father, mid-sentence near the bar, stopped cold. I walked through the crowd with calm confidence, greeting distant relatives who hadn't heard about the engagement party incident. Then I positioned myself near the area reserved for speeches and waited till my father approached, my mother trailing behind. Sarah, he said, his voice falsely warm. We're so glad you came. Your mother's been worried sick, has she? I replied evenly. That's interesting. You disappeared, not answering calls. My mother added softly. I needed time to think, I said, about family and what we owe each other. My father's smile tightened. Tonight isn't about that. It's Ethan's big day. Yes, I said, smiling faintly, and I've brought him quite a gift. Before he could respond, the event coordinator announced it was time for toasts. My father went first, delivering his usual speech about Ethan's brilliance and boundless potential. My mother followed with teary-eyed nostalgia. Then I stepped forward. I'd like to say a few words about my brother, I said, taking the microphone. The room went silent. Ethan and I have a complicated relationship. Like many siblings, we've had our differences. But unlike most, ours are meticulously documented. I nodded to Emma, who activated the projector. The screens intended to show Ethan's childhood photos now displayed something very different. Over the past 5 years, I said steadily, I have transferred exactly $87,450 to my brother and parents. Loans that were never repaid. Contributions to businesses that never existed. Rent, car payments, credit cards, Every dollar accounted for. Gasps rippled through the room. My father moved to stop me, but Emma's associate blocked his path. When I refused to give them my $50,000 wedding fund, I continued. My father assaulted me in front of 83 witnesses. The screen flashed an image me at my engagement party. Mid-slap, my father's hand frozen in the air. The crowd erupted in shocked murmurs. "This isn't just about money," I said, voice trembling but strong. "It's about years of exploitation, something many people in this room have endured. Being used isn't love. It's control." My father pushed forward, red-faced. "Turn that off immediately. This is slander." "Every word is documented," I said calmly. "Every text, every transaction, every broken promise." "You ungrateful," he began. "I filed a formal lawsuit," I interrupted, "for full restitution and damages for assault. Morrison and Associates is handling it." Emma stepped forward with a folder. "You've been served." Silence swallowed the room. My mother's face crumpled. Ethan stood motionless beside his cake, his perfect image collapsing in real time. "This is how you repay us?" My father spat. "By humiliating your brother on his birthday?" I actually laughed. "No, Dad. This is how I stop you from taking everything I've worked for." I turned to the stunned crowd. "I apologize for the interruption, but the truth deserves its moment too. Please enjoy the rest of your evening." As I moved to leave, my mother grabbed my arm. "Sarah, please. We can work this out privately as a family." I gently freed myself. "We tried that for years, Mom. Now we'll try my way." The aftermath was swift. The lawsuit made headlines in our social circle. My father's business partners began quietly distancing themselves. Ethan's online following crumbled overnight. Within a week, their attorney contacted Emma to negotiate. They offered $50,000, the same amount as my wedding fund. "Not enough," I told Emma. "Not nearly enough." We countered with full restitution, assault damages, and a legally binding no-contact agreement, over $200,000 in total. "They'll never agree." Emma warned. "Then we go to court," I said simply. 3 days later, they settled. My father sold one of his properties to pay. Ethan's spiritual entrepreneurship dream died before it began. Mark, and I used part of the settlement to book a new wedding venue on the Oregon coast, intimate, breathtaking, and entirely ours. My classroom colleagues stood where my parents would have been. My closest friends replaced the extended family who chose silence. We danced until dawn, surrounded only by love. 2 months later, we moved to Portland to begin our next chapter. I transferred to a local elementary school, and we opened our cafe, the Willowbrook Cafe, where my artwork adorned the walls. Cozy Crafts expanded into a lifestyle, brand built on authenticity and heart. The lawsuit's ripple effects reached far beyond us. Other victims came forward. My father's empire of manipulation began to crumble. Ethan, cut off from his safety net, took a job at a local retail store. Occasionally, I get late-night texts from unknown numbers, clearly him, begging for a small loan. I never replied. My mother tried to reconnect birthday cards, long emails, even a surprise visit. She sat across from me in the cafe, hands trembling around her coffee. "Your father's changed," she whispered. "Has he apologized to anyone else he hurt?" I asked. Her silence was answer enough. "I'm done with conditional love, Mom," I said gently. "I'm building something real." Tears welled in her eyes. "We're still your family." Biology doesn't make a family, I told her softly. Respect does. Support does. Those are things I never had with you and Dad. She left without finishing her drink. I didn't hear from her again, though Willowbrook Cafe thrived. My artwork gained a following, and we opened a second location within a year. Mark's marketing skill turned our dream into a community built on truth and compassion, the very values my family lacked. Teaching became fulfilling again. I started an after-school art program for kids who reminded me of my self-quiet dreamers needing someone to believe in them. With financial freedom came a new kind of generosity, the kind that didn't demand my peace in return. We launched a small scholarship for young entrepreneurs and donated to organizations supporting victims of family abuse. For the first time, I felt I was creating the kind of world I always needed growing up. Then, 1 year after the confrontation, I received an email from my father. No apology, just business. I've been watching your success. Let me invest. I always knew you had potential. I showed it to Mark, who just shook his head. Some people never learn. I replied simply, thank you for your interest in the Willowbrook Cafe. We are not seeking outside investors at this time. All the best in your endeavors. Polite, professional, final. That evening, as Mark and I closed the cafe, a quiet peace settled over me. The road had been painful but necessary. I'd learned that sometimes the greatest act of self-love is drawing a boundary no one can cross. Family, real family, isn't built on fear or obligation. It's built on truth, respect, and love freely given. And as we walked home hand in hand through the gentle Portland rain, I knew that every painful step had led me here to a life worth every ounce of the price I'd paid.